Hello, everyone. My name is Jake Conkle. I'm running for San Jose City Council. This is my friend Adia, D6 resident. She's doing a lot of amazing work in the community. Wanted to bring her on to talk about that work, give a little bit of her background so we can all get to know each other and then focus on what's important for District 6 and the city of San Jose. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on, Adia.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is gonna be great. I've been looking forward to this. So San Jose is my home now, right? It's been my home for 4.5 years. I really love this city. It's very much grown on me. And the primary reason I moved out here was for my job with the California Teachers Association. So I am a union rep. I help negotiate and advocate for our public school educators and clinicians and basically people who work in public schools. And I love it. It's the best thing ever. I used to be a teacher before that, so I taught for 10 years in various cities in California and back east. But yeah, so I'm really glad to be here. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. We are in day, I have no idea how many of quarantine.
Right.
We're trying to make the most of it. So I'm grateful to have these one-on-one conversations. We talked with some San Jose teachers on Tuesday. We talked with Peter Allen about art and culture in San Jose and politics of that looks like. So glad to end my week of doing this live stream stuff with you. I know you just organized a big Juneteenth event.
I did, yeah.
Town at City Hall.
Yeah.
Can you start by explaining Juneteenth to people?
Well, I'll give you guys the quick and dirty because you guys can Google Juneteenth if you want the longer version. But basically, Juneteenth is a celebration that started in Texas because even after the Emancipation Proclamation, which was given by President Abraham Lincoln, it took another 2 years for that news, because remember, no internet, phones, that kind of thing, right? Everything was still Pony Express. 2 years for that to reach slaves and slave owners in Texas. In fact, slave owners knew, and they were intentionally making sure the information didn't get to slaves because, of course, they loved their free labor. That's how they made their profit margins, how they made all their money. That's how America was built. So the first slaves were brought over to America back in 1619. If you haven't listened to the podcast 1619 from the New York Times from Hannah Nicole, please listen to it. It's the best about 6 hours you will ever spend. But Juneteenth is it's not a national holiday. It should be. People have been working on it. I don't think under this administration it will become a federal holiday, but maybe under the next administration it will. But I wanted to bring a little bit about what I learned about how we celebrate Juneteenth when I lived back east in Baltimore and DC. It's always a neighborhood block party. Think barbecue. Think just having fun, good music, good food, and camaraderie. And I wanted to bring a little bit of that to San Jose, but also because it was on behalf of the movement for Black Lives, and we're in this, I call it a pandemic within a pandemic of racism, bring some awareness around Black Lives Matter, defunding the police, getting rid of the current administration, because they're doing us all wrong. And of course, when I say defund the police, we mean reallocating resources. And that's kind of really what I'm passionate about, because I think the best way you can support our communities is by investing in them. And you can't do that when you're spending a third to half or even more of your budget, which is what most cities do, on law enforcement.
So what specifically, and we talked a little bit about this offline, are you interested in making sure we have quality funding for?
So things that cities can do, because cities generally don't get involved in public education, which is also another passion of mine, but what cities can do is fund community centers, rec centers. What cities can do is have community spaces, green spaces, pools, right? Things where kids can hang out. Funding something like city jobs or some sort of city works. So youth can get jobs, and if they're employed and making money, they won't look to make money in other ways or entertain themselves by doing things that maybe aren't as, helpful to the community and, good. Good for them, good for others. Kids tend to get in trouble when they're bored, so let's make sure we have programming that makes sure they're not, right? Homework support. I saw the best rec centers I've seen, actually. The last city I lived in was Baltimore. Every neighborhood had a rec center, and they had robust programming, everything from everything for youth, adults, seniors. People knew they could go there to get lunch. People knew they could go there everything, literally everything was at these rec centers. So I kind of don't see that sort of robustness here.
Yeah, I know. I mean, for me, I'm almost right across the street from the Bascom Community Center. I know you're down fairly close to the Willow Glen Community
Center. It's right across the street. I can see it from my porch.
I think you're absolutely right. We have these spaces that we invested money in building, and then we have trouble doing regular programs at times. For Bascom specifically, we've had to transition it into an OWL, an overnight warming shelter, because we've still not necessarily addressed our unhoused.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it was something when I went down, especially to your Juneteenth event, walked around, you had all the other tents there, community organizations that were there to promote the good work that they were doing.
Yeah, so let me shout them out. Thank you for reminding me. I had Surge come out, great organization. If you guys aren't plugged in, SURJ, they're a great organization. We had Hero Tent, which is from basically being the backbone for every protest, every march, every event that's happening in the Bay Area. They provide food, they provide first aid, they provide water, making sure everyone's protesting and marching and staying safe, which is fantastic. Those are resources that you need, right? Right, exactly. Providing masks, providing gloves, providing whatever they need. I brought in Swing Left, who did some voter registration, because the only way we can create sustainable change is if we're all politically engaged. And I know no one likes to hear it, but I like borrowing that phrase from Obama. Don't boo, vote. Don't complain, vote. I believe in that. I have voted in every election. Even when I was abroad in Tanzania, I remember walking to the American embassy with my other American students, and we walked down to vote. It was the election of 2000, Al Gore. And I believe every vote matters. And
especially at these local ones. I mean,
yes, especially local races.
10, 1,
yes,
few hundred votes.
Especially local races. A lot of times it's just a few votes that make the difference. Just a few votes can make the difference. Let's see what our organizations came out. OCI, of course, was there. We did a big community art project. Mara Pivot totally came up with this amazing idea, right? Doing this beautiful tapestry that kind of looked like stained glass when it was done, and everybody had a little piece of it. I love that. I can't wait to hang it back up at the church, the Unitarian Church where we meet over on Campbell, 400 West Campbell. I can't wait till we get back to normalcy and we can actually see each other in person and hang out, and have that hanging up in there would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a really great event. We had teachers come out, teachers from the Union District Education Association, teachers from the San Jose Teachers Association, teachers from Alum Rock Education Association were all there in support. Some were speakers, some were running tables, some were doing some community engagement, but it was a really great event. But I couldn't have done it without OCI. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I just think I'm so inspired by people that have ideas, they go run with them, they want to make a difference in the community, and they say, this is what inspires me.
Yeah.
You're back living in Baltimore, understanding what Juneteenth meant to the community over there, bringing some of that to us here in San Jose.
Yeah.
I really love that we have such a diverse district with it. You're District 6, but a diverse city where those experiencers are also going to come into this same movement to invest in community.
Yeah.
Right? Community engagement opportunities are about organizing. They're about getting people together so that you can do all these things that need to happen. Register people to vote, get people information, provide art and community spaces so that people can meet their neighbors. I think that's a a big piece that we have struggled to put together in the city of San Jose, at least here on the west side for sure, the last couple of years.
Because people are comfortable on the west side. Let's keep it real. People are real comfortable. That's why I love seeing San Jose Strong, San Jose for Black Lives, Surge, bringing protests, bringing marches to our comfortable communities.
I was down there. We had Black Lives Matter march through downtown, and then downtown Willow Glen anyway, and then we turned on a side streets. Incredibly powerful neighbors coming out of their houses, cheering us on. That was a really awesome experience for me.
Yeah, good.
I'm sure for everybody in the community that there's definitely some distance between what's happening downtown and what's happening in District 6 in Willow Glen, and it was good to bring that energy in. Yeah.
So Mary Celestine's been leading those events, and she's doing an amazing job. She's a young woman from San Jose who's home from college. She goes to school down in Pomona at Harvey Mudd, so it's phenomenal work. I love seeing people come together because movements are made of people, right? That's what movements are. And keeping the movement sustained takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of resources. And it takes people caring. And so as we move along, we're hoping to fold in more people from the community and to keep it moving forward, right? We don't want to go backwards. We want to move forward. And we're marching all the way to November 3rd.
All the way. And there's a space for everyone. I think you're definitely one of the most experienced organizers I know of. Explain to people a little bit, like, you don't have to be downtown organizing, downtown marching to be engaged in.
No, you know what? Something that honestly really warmed my heart. I was running errands because I usually, leave my house once, maybe twice a week. So I'm running all my errands. It was on a Sunday, and I was driving through downtown Willow Glen on my way to downtown, and I saw maybe half a dozen women. There might have been a few gents there, but I remember seeing about half a dozen women with Black Lives Matter signs standing on Willow and Lincoln, asking for horn honks, trying to get people just to be aware, just to ask questions, and just having one-on-one conversations with people as they're crossing the street. People were asking, like, why are you here? Why are you doing this? And, of course, it was 6 white women, but white supremacy is not a Black issue, right? It's not a Black problem. It's a Black issue. It's not a Black problem. White supremacy is a white problem. So to see white people actually engaging in the work, I've had a lot of people reach out to me. I grew up in Orange County, Huntington Beach, California. I am amazed at how many former classmates that I haven't talked to since '98 have gotten in touch with me lately, apparently just discovering racism exists, even though my sister and I and the rest of my family have been yelling to the top of our lungs that racism exists, and it fell on deaf ears. I think people create revisionist history a lot. But to bring it back to Santa Clara, when I moved here, it felt really familiar. It felt just like Orange County to me. The demographic makeup's similar. The socioeconomic have and have nots dynamic is similar. The only thing you're missing is 13 miles of pristine coastline. But you just got to go down the 17 to get to that. I came here and it felt right. But a lot of the same problems that I saw in Boston, in DC, in Baltimore, we have here. Not everybody drives a Tesla. Not everybody makes 6 figures in big tech. And I think people forget sometimes that, we don't all have that luxury. Despite growing up in Huntington Beach, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I was one of those, there was an author, she talks about it. There's like generational poverty versus situational poverty. And we were situationally poor. My parents got divorced, and overnight things change. So I grew up in a single parent household. I don't remember even living with my father. So any case, one of the things that I try to always work into every conversation I have with school districts around here, whether we're working on a memorandum of understanding, whether we're working on a collective bargaining agreement, or anything having to do with curriculum, is equity, and making sure that we see equity throughout the district. Because even within school districts, there's 34 school districts in Santa Clara County. And even within school districts here on the west side, there are still haves and have-nots. And not all schools can raise $3 million for their home and school clubs and give each teacher $200 to spend however they'd like. And I don't think that's fair that happens. I don't think it's fair that some schools have field trips and some schools don't. It's, so trying to bring equity always in the conversation and trying to make sure that we're providing equal educational opportunities for all our students and all our families here in San Jose.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of how things are fitting together right now. I'm not sure if it was in a Facebook group or next door. I saw a conversation, Will Glenn community talking about why the school rankings for the public schools, even in a wealthy area like Will Glenn, do not match what people might think to home value.
Oh, I can tell you, just from Lizzo and I walk the neighborhood twice a day, and
Lizzo is for everybody.
Lizzo's my dog. Sorry, Lizzo is my little terrier mix. She's awesome. She's a foster dog from Jake's Wish. Shout out to Jake's Wish down in the South part of the county.
Good Jake as well.
See, staying on message. And I have noticed that there are some families who choose to send their kids to public school, but I would say the majority of the families in my neighborhood choose public school, and that's their right. They can make that choice.
Choose private school.
But when you have people who aren't investing and actually sending their kids to the local public school, it's reflected in those rankings, right? So one of the things that I guess didn't surprise me, honestly, but I guess what got confirmed when I was doing my graduate work, I got a master's in education policy and management, and the correlation between test scores, right, but the strongest correlation is a parent's income level. So if you want to see those rankings go up, then the community needs to start investing in their public schools and sending their children there, and their rankings will go up. But as long as I mean, parents, if people have choices, I get it, right? You want the best for your kid, but public schools have the best education that our kids can offer. I really do believe that. I'm a fourth generation public school teacher in the state of California, and public schools do more good for our communities than any other public entity, honestly. I mean, see what happened in March when they shut down. I mean, I think people forgot how much public schools do, right? They feed kids, they educate kids, they take care of kids' socio-emotional well-being. They're checking up on kids. They're making sure that kids have technology resources, both at school and at home. Schools do so much. They provide sports and music and art and outlets for kids to be creative, outlets for kids to, have clubs and meet other like-minded kids. It's really important for kids to have that. And let's start at the top. Because our president couldn't get it together to provide a plan for COVID, and because the residents of the entire U.S., not just here in Santa Clara, because Dr. Cody was the first one to point out there was a problem. She rang the bell first. So when I give our public health officer props for that. But we didn't all do our part by wearing masks and staying in place. And we opened up, in my opinion, too soon, which is why we're seeing the spikes and all the numbers are going the wrong way. Hospitalizations, everything's going the wrong way, which is why schools aren't opening in the fall for in-person instruction. They are opening in the fall for distance learning. And I think people forget, and I had a post about this earlier, a teacher's working conditions are a kid's learning conditions, right? Does that make sense? So students' learning conditions are a teacher's working conditions, and vice versa. And so one of the things we're working on is making sure everybody's safe, because until everybody's safe, no one's safe, right? Teachers have families, students have families. We don't want to create transmission. We know kids aren't great, especially younger kids, about following rules, and teenagers for a different reason, because biologically, their pituitary glands imploding, they're meant to rebel against rules. So you tell them you want them to wear a mask, more than likely they're going to be like, well, you told me to, so I'm not. Some might comply, but some might not. And we want to make sure that schools are safe for everybody. And one of the things we're seeing, or one of the rumors was, oh, kids don't transmit. Y'all don't listen to Betsy DeVos. It's not true. We saw in Arizona, we saw at summer camps, kids are getting coronavirus. The only reason kids hadn't been getting it is because they were at home, staying safe. Once we put them in a summer camp, once we put them in the summer school, which some states unfortunately did that this summer, we saw that kids were getting coronavirus. So we know that COVID-19 does not discriminate. Doesn't matter what age you are. It does hit some folks harder, especially our brown and black communities, because guess who's doing the essential work? Black and brown communities, even here in San Jose.
Oh, pardon me. That's a huge piece of this as well. I mean, we're in so many intersecting issues that you can't just focus on one.
I know, because all of them, everything ties together.
With that, we've been a little over 20 minutes now, so wanted to say thank you again for jumping on. Hopefully, going to be doing this a long time as we go past November 3rd and then continue to build community in District 6. Again, thank you. Happy to have you, and hopefully this is not
Thanks, Jake. It was great. This was fun.
Good.
This was great.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do my part for CTA, California Teachers Association. If you haven't endorsed yes on Prop 15, right? Yes on Prop 15 November 3rd, and vote for Jake.
I'll take both of those things. Great votes to have. All right.
Yeah, more money for our communities and schools.
Perfect idea. Thank you very much.